Welcome to my channel. My name is Carl. I'm a Bob Ross certified painting instructor. Thank you so much for watching my videos. If you enjoy my content, please consider liking and subscribing. Also, if you're interested in art supplies or Bob Ross products, you can check out my affiliate links in the description below. I thought today we'd do one of Bob's pictures, Deep Woods. This will be my take on it, so you can get your supplies ready, and we'll go up to the canvas. So we have a 16 by 20 canvas. I've covered it in a very thin coat of liquid white. The liquid white is wet, so we can move and slide paint. Here are the colors you'll need to follow along with me. Again, this is going to be my variation. Won't be exactly like Bob Ross's picture, but will be along the same lines. So I'm going into a little bit of dark sienna, maybe a hint of yellow ochre on the 1-inch brush. You can certainly use the 2-inch brush. And I'm just doing X strokes. And then in the corner here, you'll see that I've added a little bit of sap green to the same mixture. So we're just tapping, and then I'm doing X strokes. By working in the corners, it'll help darken the corners and edges, and then your eyes will go towards the center of the picture. This is a little bit more unique of a picture than I'm used to. I thought it would be fun to try. So now I have a 2-inch brush, and I'm just softening and blending out the brush strokes. Now for the distant trees, I have a 1-inch brush, and I've added a little bit more of the sap green to that mixture. And you'll see here that I actually added a little bit more green. I thought it was a little bit too brown for my taste. And I'm just looking for indication. So I'm just tapping. You can turn the brush on its side. But really in the distance, we're not looking for a lot of detail. Just very, very soft indications. Very loose. So again, you kind of see I'm just lightly tapping. There's not a lot of detail here. But I just want those subtle indications. And then here with the 2-inch brush, I'm tapping the base pretty aggressively, and then lift up. And we're looking for that distant, soft look. And this will create that layer of mist in between the different layers of bushes and trees and such. And then with a liner brush, you can use thinner, or I used walnut oil, and a little bit of that same color. And I'm just going to create the illusion of maybe some distant sticks and twigs, distant tree trunks. Moving on to the next layer, I created a lavender mixture with phthalo blue and bright red, and a little bit of white. So we want this to be not too bright, but we're working in layers, and it'll push that distant greenish brown layer far into the background. And then here I'm taking a fan brush and I'm tapping just the indication of some tree trunks. And just doing a tapping motion. There's lots of ways you can do trees. And in your world, you can add as many or as few as you'd like. If you want to use the knife, you certainly can. Just think of where they live. I do enjoy this style of tree. I think it's a nice look. I think they're pretty simple to do. And again, I'm just tapping. And here with the fan brush, I've used the kind of right corner and to create some indications of some leaves and foliage off the trees. So just here and there. Think about where they'd live. And by working in layers, we can create a lot of depth in this picture. I do love the color tones, kind of the brown tones. I think it's a nice change of pace. Here's with the 2-inch brush, I'm again creating some more of that soft mist. Tapping at the base. Now for the right side here, I did add a little bit more phthalo blue. I wanted a little bit more of the bluish color as we work in the layers. And again, I'm just kind of sliding, moving the paint, thinking about just some of the bushes, not a lot of detail. Just creating those indications. And again, just tapping, thinking about where they live. And then here I'm adding more of those branches. I added a little bit of crimson to this just to make it a little bit more purple. Not too much. Very subtle. We don't need a lot of branches, just some indications. And then back to the 2-inch brush. You could use a 1-inch brush and just focusing on that bottom edge. Just moving and sliding paint. We're really looking to soften. So we're just thinking about softening. Remember, we have the liquid white on the canvas. We can move and slide paint. And then here I just added another layer. I felt it was needed just to push the tree layer back a bit. And again, if you're following along with my paintings, you can certainly do something similar, or maybe you have completely different ideas. That's the beauty of art. You can do what makes you happy. Here with the liner brush, make sure it's thin. I'm just adding some more branches kind of underneath where the foliage was. And the more details you put in, the more realistic it'll look. So you can really take lots of time, more time than I did, and put in lots of sticks and twigs. Really have a lot of fun. And then now I mixed up a little bit of dark sienna, a little bit of alizarin crimson, Van Dyke brown, and we're just looking to create another layer. So these are some bushes, and I am leaving some gaps. I kind of like the look of that, just so it's not all solid. And again, I'm just moving and sliding, using the corner of the brush. But look at the depth it creates. And then here I'm just tapping the base. I will be scrubbing in some dark color here shortly. This would be a great picture for some black gesso. Of course, you would make sure that the gesso was applied beforehand, but there's so much dark down here, I think that would be something that would work out quite well. Save you a little bit of time. And then here I just took some bright red mixed with yellow ochre. And we're just creating the illusion of some highlights, just some different colors happening, maybe a little orange looking color. And then you're going to see me kind of shape the water in the waterfall here and there. So I'm just putting in a little bit of color, little blue mixed with white. Now here I went back with a little bit more of the darker brown color. So dark sienna, Van Dyke brown, maybe a hint of alizarin crimson. And I'm just using the corner of the brush to tap in an evergreen tree. And then on the left side here, Van Dyke brown with black. And I'm just looking for that dark coverage, just some indications on the left side. And you can see I'm just really just scrubbing in some color. That's the focus. And then on the right side here, I just added a tree trunk. So again, just tapping the brush vertically, creating that texture, kind of that bark texture. Has a cool look. And again, in your world, you can add a whole forest if you want. And then here with the fan brush on the side, I'm thinking about the foliage. Just some happy trees throughout the forest. And then you can see I added a few more highlights with the fan brush, and then here with the knife, I'm just adding maybe a little sandy beach. Now with the waterfall, it's very important that you add liquid white or thinner to your white, so it's very thin paint. That'll help it move and slide. And I'm just kind of sliding the brush and then dropping straight down. It's important that your water drops pretty much straight down. Just crash, make those sound effects. Now you'll see me in this painting. I'll kind of come back a little bit later on to work on the waterfall as the scene starts coming together. And I'm just scrubbing and moving and sliding where the water is. I would recommend, if you are painting this picture, to maybe go a little darker where I have the brown underpainting. I would probably mix more with black and brown just so it's a little bit darker. This is the first time that I've even painted this picture. but I do think it's still a lot of fun. It provides a unique challenge. And then here you can see I did bring in a little bit more of the dark color. And the beauty of the wet on wet is, when I put this in here, you're thinking, oh no, but I can start blending and sliding, and who knows, maybe some shadows of the trees are casting over the water. And then with the fan brush here, I just am pushing up to create that illusion of foam, some things happening as the water's crashing over. Now in your world, you can add some rocks. You can just have a lot of fun with all those extra details. And you can see in the paint there, I added a hint of phthalo blue. Now on the shore side, I did add a little bit of dark here and then brought in some highlights just to give it a little bit more variation in the picture. Here's some black mixed with a hint of brown just to, again, darken up the water a bit. And then we're going to be adding a rock here. So I just have the knife. You could use a fan brush, you could use a filbert brush. And I'm really looking to scrub in a big boulder. And then here I added a little bit of white to the black so it has a gray color. And very light pressure. I'm just starting to think about where the light would hit through the forest. Let the canvas take what it wants. And then here I'm adding some blue shadows. So a little phthalo blue, a little bit of black. And you can add a hint, ever so slight bit of white. And then into that gray highlight color, I added a little bit more titanium white. So you can see just that there's a little bit more light cascading off. Maybe these are just flat boulders. With the 1-inch brush, I'm adding some underpainting grass, just some dark color. So you can see here, I'm just really scrubbing in the color. Not too concerned. And then again, we're adding a big tree right here. So a big tree, tapping vertically. Oh, it's a powerful one. And some foliage, some branches coming off the tree. It has a beautiful view overlooking the waterfall. And then here I just put in some happy sticks and twigs. Again, put as many details as you'd like. And then with a little bit of the yellow ochre, little hint of bright red, kind of a warm yellow-orange color, I'm dancing in some highlights on the tree trunk. And then here I'm adding a little bit of white on that as well. Just kind of subtle, but it's there. And then with the fan brush and that orange highlight color, I'm pushing in some highlights. Maybe there's some highlights in the bushes. Ooh, I put a little bright red in here. Oh, I like that. Love the red colors. Just pushing up with the fan brush. And then back to the 1-inch brush, I went into a little bit of sap green, cad yellow, a little bit of yellow ochre just to dull it down. And we're starting to create the indication of grass. Now for rocks, with the filbert brush, you want to make sure the paint is very thin. And I load one side with black and the other side with a little bit of the white gray color. And if you notice, it's kind of tilted. You rotate and press to the side. And it creates a really cool illusion of some rocks. Here with the fan brush, I'm just adding a little bit of the yellows just to create the illusion of some grasses. And then back with the fan brush, we're starting to come back with some foam patterns, just that happy water going downstream. And then here I'm kind of starting to set that water in a bit. I wanted to blend and soften. Just a fun little waterfall. And then here I added a little bit of some green grasses, just subtle, not too vibrant, kind of more of the olive green look. Here and there, maybe there's a little green in the forest. And then I added a little hint of some darker sand right on the water's edge. Back to the 1-inch brush and some of that green grass color. You can see my palette there. And again, I'm just creating the illusion of some grasses, and then back to the fan brush for some extra highlights. Just pushing up. But you can add as many details as you want. In your world, you can have a lot of fun. Whatever makes you happy, that's important. And then here I'm adding some more of the sticks to support those leaves and branches. Just a lot of things happening. Now here on the rock, I'm just adding a little bit of shadow, a little black with the small part of the knife, and then it's time for a signature. I really hope you enjoyed this unique picture. Check out my website at carlvonartistry.com. Happy painting. See you next time.